The All-Star break is behind us, and this is where the baseball season really starts, for me at least, right? It's going to really start tightening up here, and the early surprises are no longer just fun stories. Struggling contenders, they're kind of running out of excuses at this point, and the trade deadline is about to force teams to decide whether they're actually chasing a championship or preparing for next season. So now that we've seen roughly about half of the season, I'm going to be making some predictions for everything that's going to happen from this point forward. And we have a couple of different categories for this specific situation. So, first of all, second half breakout team. I think they've already broken out a little bit with the win streak that they have, but I think this team can certainly get into the top of the AL by the end of the regular season. And I'm talking about the Boston Red Sox, already a team again that went on an insane winning streak, and it got them back to where they need to be, and that is striking distance to get the AL East win, right? Above the Rays and above the Yankees. They're only 7 games back now of the AL East despite being third. And I think that the biggest marker for this team is their plus 48 run differential. I think that suggests that they're better than their record, as it's one of the better run differentials in the AL. And I think that this is going to be a team that can certainly thrive down the stretch. They got a top 3 pitching staff right now with a 3.55 ERA. And I think the biggest point of emphasis that they've improved is their defense. I think their defense has improved dramatically over the last couple of weeks, and I think they're playing their best baseball right now. Sure, their winning streak did get snapped, but they're still 8-2 in the last 10, and they're currently playing, I think it's the A's right now. I can double check that right now. It is going to be the A's, which they beat 4-2 yesterday, and the A's are a team that I had a lot of high hopes for coming into this season, but they certainly have not played to the highest of their potential. All right, talking about the biggest breakout team of the second half, we're going to go to the opposite side of the spectrum, and I'm going to talk about the biggest second half collapse. And for this one, there's a lot of teams here that I am not necessarily hating or anything, but I think there are some teams that can tank slightly. I look at teams 2 in particular. The first one is the Washington Nationals. I think the Nats are a good offensive team. I think the pitching is what is probably going to let them down. Right now they're sitting in the middle of the pack. Basically, they're about 8th in the NL, and I think that they have an opportunity with that offense. James Wood is playing amazing right now, but I think the pitching could let them down. The other team is the Chicago White Sox. I really like the Chicago White Sox. I thought the Chicago White Sox had a real chance to outperform expectations this year, but they're looking like an absolute animal right now. They're a tank. They're sitting at 3rd in the AL right now. They're 7 games back of the leaders in Tampa Bay. I just worry, will some of the bad issues, some of the issues that plagued them last year come back and haunt them as we head into the latter parts of this season. They're sitting right now at the same record as the Boston Red Sox, and I think that in terms of their division, the AL Central, I don't know if they'll have any trouble, but they are only 2 games ahead of the Guardians and 3 games ahead of the Twins, so they can easily lose. And then the Tigers as well, who could be getting more healthy as we get on throughout the rest of the second half of the season. I think all 3 of those teams can contend with the White Sox and possibly bump them out of a playoff positioning. So it's not necessarily just the team in that aspect. I also think that it's how good the AL, or how tight, I should say, the AL Central is as a division. Going to most important trade deadline buyer, and I think this is personally, I think this is pretty simple for me, but I know a couple of people may disagree. I'm going to go with the New York Yankees. They have the best ERA in baseball with a 3.41. And the biggest point of emphasis is Aaron Judge is still out, and they're currently sitting in second place in the AL right now, behind the Tampa Bay Rays. They're only 2.5 games behind, and they have been decent, 6-4 in their last 10 games. The biggest thing is their run differential, best run differential in the AL. They had the fourth best in the entire MLB right now. The biggest concern about this team is their defense. Once again, last night, they almost choked a lead because of a defensive error, but this was by Volpe, of all people, right? Volpe, and I just think that they need some assurance when it comes to that sort of attribute about this team. I think the hitting is going to be fine, right? Aaron Judge is going to come back. The offense is still going to be dangerous. And again, as I said, plus 88 run differential, best in the AL. Best in the AL. But I just worry about this team's defense. Can they get an infielder, or can they get somebody that can shore up the defensive side of things for this team heading into the back half of the season? I think the defense has been, the fielding especially, has been the issue for this team in making a deep run or even winning the World Series back in 2024. And it seems like they just have not been able to find a fix for that. So I think the Yankees are probably the team that I think should be buying and they're the most important trade deadline buyer, because you get a guy that is a notable bat even, but more a defensive specialist. And I think we're talking about a team that goes from a really good team that has generally been hitting a glass ceiling to a team that is a out and out World Series contender. So that's where I'm looking at in terms of trade deadline buyers. Now, the trade deadline sellers, I have a couple of candidates for this. I think there's two main ones. You can convince me for another one that I'll talk about as well. But both of these teams are in the NL. For me, it's got to be the two most disappointing teams in the NL this year. It's the San Francisco Giants and it's the New York Mets. I mean, what a catastrophe both of these teams have been. You can argue which one has been worse. I think that the general consensus would probably be the New York Mets are the worst. You talk about a team that's second in spending in the MLB this year, and this is a team that is currently sitting in second to last. You know, a lot of people talk about, and this is a point I love to bring up, when it comes to people who hate the Dodgers because of the spending and that they're buying all their championships. You still have to go out there and do your job and be able to execute whenever you are out there. And I think the Dodgers have their own problems, but most of the time they are executing, right? So when you look at the Mets, this is a team that has consistently been out of the playoff picture, even though they have been at the top of the spending charts. And I just find it so difficult to believe how this team continually cannot win games, and they are sitting last in the NL East. They have been 2-3 in their last couple of games. They just lost a series to the Dodgers. They lost a series to the Brewers right before that. And this is a team that they did beat the Phillies, but a Phillies team that has been on a downturn recently. They got swept by the Red Sox before that. And anytime this is a tough schedule, I will say, and they're playing the Braves now, right? You're playing basically the three best teams in the NL, but this is just a team that consistently underperforms, and I think that selling at the trade deadline is probably going to be the right move for them. But can they even afford selling at this point? Because they have put so much money towards, some free agents, Juan Soto, and some of these other players that they brought in. They've spent so much, and do you necessarily need to trade away for assets that you have spent so much money for? The other team, again, the San Francisco Giants, I think for me personally, this is a team that has disappointed me a lot this year. A lot of the issues that plagued this team over the last couple of seasons has kind of come back to light. I think the pitching this year has not been as good as it was last year, and we look at a team that is 45-61 right out of the All-Star game, and I think this is another season where I don't know how much you can improve this team to become a contender, and it might be wise for you to start trading away. The other team that I think you could you could convince me on is the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, this is a Toronto Blue Jays team that went to the World Series last year, and they have a lot of talent on this team. So I don't necessarily believe from a talent perspective that they're missing anything. I think it's just this team is just not performing to the caliber of their players. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. not been amazing this year. You look at the averages and it's not looking great. The OPS numbers are also not looking as amazing as a Toronto Blue Jays team that went to the World Series should be looking like. And the fall off has just been insane to me. They're the fourth worst team in the AL right now at a 49-58 record. Their run differential is just not good. 4-6 in the last 10 games. You can convince me that this Toronto team could be a trade candidate, but I just think that for me personally, this is a team that can bounce back next year without trading any of their assets and get back into World Series contention, because I do believe in a lot of the players that they have, like an Ernie Clement, like a Vlad Guerrero Jr., and I just don't know if they are going to play as bad as they did this season. And again, the pitching aspect of things, this is a team that was built on their pitching in their last playoff run. And Dylan Cease and Kevin Dylan Cease has played good this year. Kevin Gausman has had a lot of innings pitched, but the ERA numbers have been terrible for him. I think that they'll pick it back up, but I think you can convince me that the Toronto Blue Jays can be a trade seller. And finally, we're going to talk about the awards. I think 3 of the 4 big awards for MLB have kind of been locked up. I think the AL MVP far and away is going to be Yordan Alvarez. I mean, what a year he's having for the Houston Astros. Once again, Yordan Alvarez just putting up gaudy numbers. I think the NL MVP is probably the tightest race. And I think if you told me that in the first half of the season, first third of the season, I think you would be wrong. Pete Crow Armstrong and Shohei Ohtani are kind of battling right now for that award. They are, I think, getting closer. I think that Shohei was really far and away the best player in the NL in the early parts of this season, but Pete Crow Armstrong has come on strong. I think eventually, at the end of the season, you're going to see Shohei Ohtani run away with it, but I would not be surprised if PCA, is able to snatch the NL MVP away from Shohei Ohtani, just, by the way that he's playing right now. And then the Cy Youngs, Cam Schlittler, I think, is going to win AL Cy Young. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. But I will say, watch out for Dylan Cease. He is coming on strong in these last couple of games, and I think he can surpass Schlittler if he has a bad second half of the season. But if he just keeps that momentum going, I think Schlittler should be winning the AL Cy Young. And then the NL Cy Young, I think this is another one which is pretty much locked up, similar to Yordan. I think this is as locked up as Yordan for me personally. The NL Cy Young is going to go to the Miz, Jacob Mizorowski. I think Christopher Sanchez had a shout earlier in the year, but not anymore. I think that Mizorowski has just been in another stratosphere when it comes to pitching side of things. And I think that this is a team that is going to be needing him in the back half of the season. They're going to ride that momentum. And I think the Brewers are going to need him if they want to make a better playoff run than they did last season. Last thing, obviously the playoff predictions, AL playoff contenders, I should say, sorry, AL champion, NL playoff teams, NL champion, and then my World Series pick as we go into the back half of the season. So, AL playoff predictions. This is a tight race when it comes to some of these divisions. The AL Central and the AL West especially. I think you can make an argument for the AL East as well. I think that Tampa Bay, currently 2.5 games behind the Yankees, or ahead of the Yankees, I should say. I think that is such a close, tight race. I think both teams will make the playoffs, but I think that New York jumps Tampa Bay in the second half of the season, especially if Aaron Judge comes back a little bit earlier than expected. And I think the Yankees will get the top of the AL East. Tampa Bay, I think, will get in as a wild card team. In the AL Central, I like the Guardians. I like the Twins. I said the White Sox could be a team that could disappoint in the back half of the season, but I think that they will stay put. I think Chicago grinds it out and gets in as the AL Central champion. And then the AL West, another division that is super tight right now. Not the best of teams, as the best team in this division is 2 games above 500 in the Texas Rangers. The Astros 2 games behind them. The Mariners 2.5 behind the Rangers as well. I'm gonna go out on a limb, and I think the Mariners do it. I think the Mariners started off the year very poorly, and they've been below average, I would say, in the last 10 games. But I think the Mariners can start picking up steam like they did at the end of last year. I don't think that this team is going to be better than last year's team, but I still think that they have the tools to get it done. So I'm going to say the Mariners win the AL West. So we got New York winning the AL East, Chicago winning the AL Central, and then I have Seattle winning the AL West. And so then we go into the three wild card teams. And for me personally, I think Tampa Bay gets in as a wild card team. I think Boston gets in as a wild card team. And the last team I will say that I think gets in as a wild card team will be the Texas Rangers. I think the Texas Rangers slide into that 6th spot, and they're able to get that 6th seed. So again, 1 seed will be New York, 2 seed will be Chicago White Sox, 3 seed will be the Mariners, 4 would be the Rays, 5 would be the Red Sox, and 6 would be the Rangers. In the NL side of things, I think that the 3 division champs have been locked up for me. I think LA is going to win the NL West, but they're 12.5 games ahead of the next best team in that division. It's surprising because it's like you look at the NL West and it's not horrible, right? 55 win Arizona Diamondbacks team right now. 53 win Padres team. I think both these teams can playing better, but the Dodgers just a staggering 67 wins. Milwaukee, I think, is certainly going to win the NL Central. They're 6 games ahead of the Cubs at 66 wins. They're plus the 139 run differential is absolutely insane. And the Dodgers have a plus 155. Atlanta, I think, is going to win the AL East, or excuse me, NL East. 62 wins. Again, the run scored has been insane. All 3 of these offenses are clicking on all cylinders. It's going to be up to these pitching staffs that I think for the Brewers, they have their guy. The Dodgers has been a little shaky, but they've come along over these last couple of weeks. And Atlanta, I think that they have some work to do in that department. But I think all 3 of those teams, they're currently in the lead of their divisions, and I think they will stay in the lead of their divisions. And I think when you look at the wild card race, it is going to be fun for this team, for this division. You got the Cubs, the Phillies, who are looking horrible, right? 3-7 in their last 10 games. The Pirates, I think, could make a late surge for playoff contention. That's currently those 3 teams are currently the ones that are in wild card spots right now. But I am gonna go with the Arizona Diamondbacks to be a team that makes the playoffs. I think the Cubs will stay there, and I think the Phillies are gonna battle with the Pirates at the end. I'm gonna go with the Pittsburgh Pirates to. I don't think I can do it, but I think I'm going to go with it. I think the Pirates' offense is a little bit better. They have their pitching god in Paul Skeens. They have a much better run differential. I think that they'll be able to get it done. So I think the Cubs get the 4, the Diamondbacks get the 5, and I think the Pirates will get the 6. And those are my playoff predictions for this MLB All-Star, post-All-Star break window, second half of the regular season. And then World Series picks. Again, I think the Boston Red Sox are going to be my team that come out of the AL. I think they're just surging right now. I think they will find a way to get another big player at the All-Star, the trade deadline, and they'll add on to what they have been doing over these last couple of months, last month, I should say. And then in the NL, I think the Dodgers are a train right now. I like the Dodgers as a fan. I am a Dodgers fan, but it is, I will say, my fourth sport. So if you want to clown me for it, go ahead. But I live in Fresno, so I can pick the Bay, I can pick SoCal. So miss me with all that. I'm gonna go with the Dodgers, I think, to win the NL. So we're gonna get a Dodgers versus Red Sox rematch. And I think that the Boston Red Sox can do it. I think that they are a team that is built for this late playoff push. And I'm going to say Boston beats the Dodgers. I just think it's so difficult to go three-peat. To go back-to-back was difficult for the Dodgers. But I think to three-peat is going to be just a task that is outside of the talent that's on the team. To win 3 straight World Series, especially in this day and age, is a very difficult task to do. And while I think they will be close, and I think that all signs point to the Dodgers winning another World Series, I am just going to go on the side of the odds to win a 3rd straight World Series and say that they don't do it. So I'm going to say the Boston Red Sox get it done over the Dodgers in 6 games. That is my MLB predictions for the second half of the year. What team do you guys think is best equipped for postseason baseball rather than simply regular season success? And what is the MLB prediction that you personally feel most confident about? Let us know down in the comments below.